everyone, my name is Jordan and today you're joining me in Norfolk and we are learning all about how to manage our horse's environment. Why is it so important that we manage our horse's environment well? And we're going to be looking at a few different ways that the horses live here at World Horse Welfare's Hall Farm. Today I'm going to be in conversation with Rosa Verwijs, who's a senior lecturer at Writtle College in Essex. She's got over 20 years of experience playing different roles in the lives of many horses and ponies. I'm so excited to get stuck into this conversation. Let's go and meet Rosa. Hi Rosa.
Hi.
So today we're learning all about how to manage our horse's environment and why is it so important that we manage their environment well?
It's really important that we try and meet their behavioural needs and make sure that we're doing all the things that horses want in their life so that they can stay relaxed, have a stress-free life and be happy for you when you're riding them.
Now, sometimes we can't always keep our horses the way that, that they would like to be kept. Obviously, horses are best suited to living outside. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, keeping horses outside is great because we just meet their key three needs, the three Fs of friends, forage and freedom, and giving them choice and control about where they want to be. We can do a lot of that when we've got horses inside as well. There's lots of different housing systems that we can try and utilise and set that up best so that the horses still have access to friends, they can still move around a little bit more, and obviously ideally making sure that they've got forage for as much time as possible.
So with stabling horses, for instance, it's best that we try and keep them in view of one another, take it?
Absolutely, yeah. In view of one another, next to another horse. There's lots of really cool things that we can do with like windows between stables, making sure we've got grills, just trying to increase visibility as much as possible. We know that can help reduce stress, reduce stereotypies and other unwanted behaviours. So as much as we can do to make sure they can see each other, this kind of setup's ideal because we've got horses, they're out of view at the moment, but we've got a couple of ponies in here that can choose to spend time together and they're in a big enough space that they can move apart. So if they're not getting on, there's no need to resource guard, fight over sort of food, water, that kind of thing. So.
And when you're saying resource guard, that you're talking about water and forage then?
Absolutely, it could be water, it could be forage, it could be you yourself. I know a lot of people will go into perhaps a group situation, whether that's a paddock or a barn, and sometimes the horses all rush because you are potentially the carrot dispenser, but you're also the provider of nice things like scratches and all the lovely things that you do with your horses as well. So you're an important resource to them. So anything that they think is important, they will work to protect that. And some horses will work harder than others, which is where we sometimes see a little bit of aggression. So again, having that space and having that choice can help to lower rates of aggression as well.
And am I right in thinking that horses, do they need a routine? So say for instance you've got horses that are stabled at night and go out in the day, is it best to keep them in a routine? Is that something that's important to them?
Routine can certainly help. For horses, they don't have watches, they can't tell the time, so they can predict what's going to happen based on knowing a routine. So going off daylight hours, going off other little signs and triggers that happen in their environment, they know it's feed time. We pick up head collars, they know that something's going to happen, we're turning out their friends. So that all helps give them actually some control again because they're able to predict what's happening. So that can help them manage stress levels, keep them calm and coping in that environment as well. So if we can't turn out full time, then yes, absolutely, trying to have a routine can be really helpful for them.
So Rosa, I've got Highland ponies back at home and I have no access to any sort of stables or indoor facility to take them off the grass during the day, and managing their weight while they're on grass all of the time is always, a constant challenge.
Yes.
And there'll be many people watching out there that do have ponies that gain weight really easily and maybe don't have access to the best facilities to manage their weight. Do you have any advice for horse owners who do have ponies that gain weight easily and can't take them off the grass? How best do we manage them outside?
So if you need to keep your ponies outside, that's still a good thing because we can still manage their weight even if they're not coming in, and ideally we don't want them to just come in and stand in a stable for the day not eating. That's not an ideal way to manage their weight because they're going to get hungry, that's going to make them frustrated, and they're not actually going to lose that much weight by starving them anyway. So a better way to do that is to think about setting up your paddock. It depends how much space you have. You can set up strip grazing, which people are probably quite familiar with, but perhaps a nicer way to do that and to actually get your horse and encourage them to move a little bit more is to set up something like a track system, which I believe you've got set up at Glendispooner. So there are some fantastic examples out there, and you actually don't need a lot of space. So traditionally a track system is sort of a wide gangway that goes perhaps around the edge of the field, but you could also make it a zigzag if you have a very small paddock.
Yeah, okay, across the field.
Yeah, so you could weave it round, and the idea is that you spread things out. So you have like feeding stations, you might have hay in different places, you have water over here. There might be an area where there's some nice sort of substrate, some sand, something where they might like to lie down. And what we're actually doing is keeping them moving. So it's much more mimicking their natural behaviour. They're going round together, ideally in a herd again, and we get them to move. So that movement, that exercise is going to keep them going. Because a lot of horses, even when we put hay out and have them in the field, you'll find that they just stand in one spot the whole time and eat the hay. So a track system is a great way for managing obesity, helping horses with laminitis as well, where we can have them on a grass track, we can have them on a dirt track. It takes a little bit of setup, and you've got to be quite creative. But there are lots of yards are doing this now, and there's lots of options. So there's some really great ideas out there for you to go and look at.
And I could just do this with maybe temporary fencing to begin with, to see how it would work.
Temporary fencing is an ideal way to start, to exactly as you say, see how it works. You might need to move bits over. You can always sort of link that with a bit of strip grazing, so you can add a bit more grass in. Other people will let their horses into the grass area for a period of the day and then put them back out on the track. So another way to sort of manage how much grass your horse is getting without completely restricting them. If you take your horses off and starve them from grass and then pop them back out, they're just going to eat.
They're just going to eat
super
more,
fast.
Aren't they?
And even within like a couple of hours, they can eat almost as much as they would eat in a day.
Really? Okay, so it's definitely best to try and keep them moving as much as possible.
Keep them moving, keep them on it, because horses are actually quite good at regulating themselves. The more we restrict them from things, the more frustrated they get. So the same can go for grazing muzzles.
A bit like people.
Absolutely, So if we deny them, like putting a muzzle on or taking them off the grass, and then think, well, if they're only out at night, they're not eating as much. Unfortunately, we know from studies and watching horses, they can actually eat more.
Oh, yes, because they've not had it, so then they binge almost.
They binge, and then they don't move as much because their priority is to like, I just need to eat now. Because horses want to eat naturally for 16 to 20 hours a day anyway.
Really? That's a long...
Absolutely.
You wouldn't think that it was that much of the day that they're eating. So they're not actually spending very much time doing anything else unless like we are training with them or they're asleep. The majority of their day is spent eating, isn't it?
Eating, moving and play.
You spoke a little bit there about the track system that's at World Horse Welfare's Glendispooner Farm. Some of the other options available, we're here at World Horse Welfare's Hall Farm today, and you know, can we discuss a little bit about some of the options they've got here, different housing arrangements for the horses and ponies in the care here? Absolutely.
So we've got a great setup right in front of us with these larger barn systems, which is great for managing our metabolic ponies, so those with laminitis, equine metabolic syndrome, PPID or Cushing's, which means that these horses still have freedom, they're still together, they still got forage, we've just taken them perhaps off the grass, but they've got that space again. For other horses, they might not get on so well with others, even though it's like a natural instinct to be together. Some horses haven't come from a background where they've been well socialised and might need a little bit of their own space. And obviously we're very traditional with our stabling systems, but that can work quite well for other reasons too, such as keeping horses on very specialist diets. If we're looking at rehabilitation, recuperation, a lot of the horses that you get here will need that very specialised individual care. And then obviously you've got lots of fields as well, which is fab, and your fields are great because you've just got loads of space and field shelters. So a nice option for them to get out of the wind like we've got today. We're in our own field shelter, and that's going to give them again that ability to choose. I want to be over there
choice is
eating
important,
grass.
isn't it? That they can choose to be in or out, because I have seen in the past, you know, it can be the worst day back at home, and I will be thinking, you know, the ponies should be in the trees or behind the windbreak, and they're not. They want to be in the middle of the field, and just because we think it's horrible doesn't necessarily mean that they think it's horrible, is it?
So we're very good at sort of humanising and thinking like, oh, I'm cold, must put more rugs on, and they'd rather be in a nice cosy stable with a nice bed. Like, that's generally what we think, but given the choice, most horses will actually choose to go outside.
And here at Hall Farm, we've got some different sort of surfaces that the ponies can be on. Is that something that, you know, horse owners should be looking into? You mentioned before about maybe sand or bark.
Yeah, so we can have turnout areas if your horses can't go on grass, and sometimes it's quite useful that we can put them onto what some people refer to as a dry lot, so a sand surface, even like your arena can be quite useful. We can put them onto bark paddocks. Anything where we're sort of removing the grass, but we don't really want to put them on concrete. Even just rubber matting is okay for part-time, but horses need something soft and cushioning. They do need to lie down. Most horses will lie down at night, so we probably just generally think, oh, our horse sleeps at night if we don't see them. But if we don't provide something nice, like a soft enough substrate, they won't lie down. They're happy to lie on grass, they'll lie on sand. We might think that's quite hard, but they quite like it. Straw's fabulous because you just offer so much foraging opportunities. It's searching for all the tasty little morsels that they can eat. So those things are going to be really useful for managing your horses, especially those ones that need a bit of soft cushioning, can't go on grass, but we want to be able to turn them out.
Because I think that's something looking forward for myself that'd be really good to try and get in is some bark kind of dry areas. So in the summertime when the grass is really lush, at least the ponies can still go out and move around. I can create my own feeding stations, but they are off that grass for the kind of most dangerous part of the day. Yeah,
we just need to be a bit careful when we've got horses on sand about how we're providing their food and their hay so that they're not ingesting lots of sand with that.
Right, okay.
So making sure to try and use feed nets or hay mangers.
To keep it off of the sand.
Yeah, there's lots of slow feeder options available now, so there's plenty of things that you can use.
So Rosa, what are some of the top tips that you can give me on how to enrich our horse's environment?
That's an excellent question, because everyone really wants to do better for their horses and try and give them those opportunities to encourage a wider range of behaviours. And enrichment doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be complex. It can be really simple, homemade DIY stuff. Our horses' needs are a lot less complex than what we need. So anything thinking back to how can we increase social opportunities. So having the ability to see other horses, thinking about freedom, so trying to give them as much space as possible. And forage is always going to be the number one priority for most horses. So thinking about if your horse is on a restricted ration, how can we try and encourage them to spend more time eating? Like horses can't work that out, that the hay's going to run out at 4 o'clock. So we need to try and manage that, but also manage it in ways that doesn't frustrate them. So hay nets are a common choice, and people will often double or triple net, but that can be quite frustrating for horses, having to pull really hard at the hay. So trying to give them perhaps some more options about maybe putting some of that hay in a hay net, having some of it loose. There are lots of slow feeders available. We can put nice tasty morsels through their bedding. You can just chuck your feed in the bedding, get them to search. They're not going to suddenly start eating straw when you put something tastier in there. They're going to spend ages, right? Rather than giving them food in a bucket, spread it out, let them search for it. That's normal, natural behaviour. So with all our enrichment, we want to encourage those natural behaviours. And instead of eating from one spot, we can spread that food out, like chucking bits of carrots and apples through your hay, anything like that. Throwing it through the bedding are all really nice ideas that your horse will be really pleased to do.
And you're trying to keep them entertained, I suppose, for as long as possible, and then they, you know, are still doing those natural, like, you know, searching, finding bits, grazing, getting in about. Because I'd never thought about that before. You know, I would always just put feed in a bucket over the stable door because that's what we've always done. But that's a brilliant idea to sort of spread it around so they have to go and find it. Yeah,
definitely that. There's lots of balls and different shape devices as well that can take them just that bit longer. It's quite engaging for them as well. It's a bit of a puzzle, it gets them to work things out. Be sure to sort of monitor them if you're putting different things in, that they don't get injured by that. Most things are quite horse robust, but there's always things that you need to be a little bit careful of.
And I did notice on some of the bark paddocks that are around the farm here, they've got brooms like stuck to the fencing. I presume that's for them to itch on. Is that a good idea? Is that?
Definitely. Horses love a scratch, and scratching posts, things that you can strap over, such as old broom heads, because how many times do we lose broom heads off our broom handles? Don't throw it away. Perhaps just pop it on the gate, tie it on quite firmly. Bum height's usually preferred. They have some really cool systems with cows. It's literally like a car wash, like these big spinning brushes.
I've seen them in dairy systems,
and they adore those. I mean, I'd love to try something like that with the horses. And they literally just walk into it and it starts scratching. So again, they've got that choice to come and use it. and great as well for horses that perhaps don't love standing to be groomed. They can choose if they want to go and groom themselves.
And that's them displaying again a natural behaviour, which is what we're striving for them to do, is to live as naturally and as freely as they would like to.
Exactly that. So just trying to think of all the things that horses would like to do. They want to lie down and get some rest every now and then, so have we got some nice soft bedding. They want to spend a lot of time eating, so even if we want a limited ration, how can we perhaps spread that and make that last a little bit longer? So try and get creative, making fruit kebabs, putting things on lead ropes, anything along those lines. Just vary things up so it doesn't get boring and doesn't become too much the same. Giving them that space, encouraging movement, and trying to give them those social opportunities. It's not a huge ask. You know, they don't want devices to play on, and they don't need all the latest gizmos and gimmicks like we do. So it's actually a lot easier, and we shouldn't be put off trying to think about what differences can we make for our horses, because actually there's a lot you can do. And if you're really stuck for ideas and there's not a lot you can do, perhaps because your livery yard restricts what you're allowed to put in the field or in the stable, is taking your horse for an in-hand walk. What we call like an enrichment walk. Hedgerows offer so many different things at different times of year. It's just a way for your horse to sniff and browse, taste different things, get different smells, different textures. And it's a really nice way to improve your bond with your horse and get that trust. Like, we love to ride, but there's so much that we can do on the ground with our horses to really develop our relationship with them and make them a lot happier.
I'd not even thought of that before. That's a fantastic idea. And you could do that very quickly in an evening, especially if it's dark, you know, and you can't ride in the dark, you know, but in the winter months you can be taking them out for an in-hand walk, even if they have to be stabled, you know, it's something that you could do. Yeah,
and if it's not safe to perhaps go out on the roads, you can set some things up around the yard, like go and get some hedge cuttings, obviously make sure you're avoiding any poisonous plants. Put some different food bowls around try some different fruit and vegetables out for them, and just encourage them to move around and investigate a little bit. Again, we're keeping their mind a bit engaged. It's all stimulating and trying to enrich their lives.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rosa.
You're welcome.
What an absolutely fantastic conversation that was with Rosa. I feel like I could have spoken with her all afternoon. How lucky am I to get to have these really interesting conversations? We spoke a lot about how to enrich your horse's environment, and if you go and take a look at the World Horse Welfare website, you'll find loads of top tips and tricks on how to occupy the stabled horse, how best to look after your grazing and your pasture at home. I'll leave loads of links in the description down below, and whilst you're there, why not leave a comment? Have you enjoyed this episode? Please let us know in the comment section. And whilst you are there, go and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the charity channel, and you'll be notified when the next episode in this series drops. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.